You've just found yourself in the land of yore. The path that you travel stops at the base of an enormous tree that towers over this part of the land of yore. Its thick knotted branches twist up and into the sky. From amongst its massive gnarled roots, a voice pipes up. Say there, little fledglings, how about a little competition? You see a strange cricket-like man who introduces himself as the Sparrow Prince, and he says, how about we have a race to the top of this tree, and if you win, you can have my title of the Sparrow Prince.
The Sparrow Prince?
Do you think capybaras can climb?
They can't climb.
No.
I don't know if I could climb. Oh, my claws are gone. I would like to try to climb.
I also kind of want to know what's at the top now.
Well, you probably get a really good view.
I don't want to leave Leaf Hedger at the bottom.
Old lady could look after him.
Old lady.
My name is Chantel.
Chantel, the cat food lady, she could look after him. Oh, my new friend Digby.
I could, what? Although I can only really move my mouth. Which is his handle.
Do you want me to look after Leaf?
Yes, please look after Leaf Hedger.
Right, well you go climb the tree then.
I want to try and I want to race him.
I want to have a go.
As the two of you
Can we have a three-way race?
Yeah, he happily would invite all of you to race. He says, I must let you know, though, whoever comes last will have a small curse. Just a bit of fun, a bit of a wager, obviously.
What kind of curse?
Well, you have to race me to find out.
No, what kind of curse?
That's not part of the deal.
It doesn't matter, whatever it is, I can handle it.
I don't want to be cursed. I'm staying with Leaf Hedger.
Oh, I want to have a go. I really want to have a go.
I'll just race you, that's not a problem.
You race him then.
Okay.
Right, so...
I'll race as well.
Oh, Milo's coming along. Oh, big fella, good. So, he lines up to the starting place, which is...
Just don't come last.
Is he a sparrow?
He is a small cricket.
Okay, well, he could still fly. That's kind of cheating.
I'll be climbing, just like you.
Okay. Climbing, not jumping.
Well, jumping is part of climbing.
Okay.
No flying.
I can't fly.
No, but he can. If he's a cricket, he can. Okay. So no flying.
So judgmental, the lot of you. You're not even racing. What do you care if I fly or not?
Are you cursed? Is this the curse? You get turned into a cricket?
No, I've always been a cricket.
Okay. I believe you.
Good, because it's the truth. So you line up at the beginning of the racetrack, which is a root tangle that leads up. There's lots of holes in the tree. So Latrine, Mydle, and the Sparrow Prince line up, and he says, "Okay then, let's go!" And he begins to dart up the tree. So you all need to, both of you need to roll a d6.
Oh no!
Like a D6.
That's two opposite ends of the spectrum.
So
Yeah.
Mydle, with his large hands, begins to just grasp into the holes of the tree and just begins to fling himself up there. The Cricket Prince is basically keeping neck and neck with you, is just hopping and bouncing and springing up the little holes. Latrine herself is a bit stuck at this point and watches the two of them begin to race up, but she's not out just yet.
I want my claws back.
Are you sure?
I want my claws back.
But at this point, Mydle and the Sparrow Prince have got up to the second part of the tree, which is the main trunk. It's covered in lots of holes, and you can see that there's many owls in the way. So if you want to keep just climbing, you can just roll dice, or if there's anything else you want to try and do, you can. Otherwise...
I still get to go.
Yep, you still got... You can try and catch up if you've got anything else you want to do. So just let me know what you want to do to continue forwards.
I'm getting the hang of this.
I will try and avoid the owls.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh god.
Okay, so Latrine's still trying to pull herself up through the various holes in the in the tree. Still isn't actually making much progress. She's like quite slowly getting through little bits and pieces. Mydell, trying to avoid the owls, basically shoves his hand into one of the holes to try and pull himself up, and manages to find himself poking an owl right in the belly that begins to poke him on the finger and nip at his large hands, and he slips down again, and he's still stuck in the owl point where the cricket prince dashes even higher still up into the lower branches, which are very dense, and it's almost hard to see him up there. So now it's the next part of the race.
You guys, I think I'm going to be cursed.
And I'm trying.
If I'm a cricket, will you still love me?
I got a 5.
Okay, so you're just going to still continue just to try and just climb normally. So the two of you both begin to like shake it off. Latrine begins to like dart up and catch up to Mydell, seeing this small goblin form like grasp into some of the owl holes and begin to pull herself up. You sort of steel yourself and push yourself further forward and overtake the little goblin girl. Mydell, you manage to find yourself in the lower branches, which are quite dense. It's hard to see a bit, ahead of you. And at this point, you've completely lost sight of the cricket prince up in the middle branches. So, what would you like to do?
I'm gonna continue.
Just gonna keep trying to climb.
Yes, I would like to try and, I don't know, bounce up on the branches or something.
Well, you're not even at the branches yet. You're at the owl holes.
Are they still at the bottom?
You're at the you're up past the root. You're into the main trunk where there's many owls. So you're in this area here,
Okay.
and Mydell's in sort of this area here.
I've got another 5.
Okay, so so you begin to push yourself up, trying to catch up with Mydell again. Sort of just trying to keep yourself from getting cursed at this point as you begin to approach Mydell in the lower branches. What does Mydell want to do?
I'm gonna keep it to climb as well.
Yep. Yep, and you continue to push forward, mainly by the looks of it, just trying to keep yourself from being cursed. You manage to find yourself into the middle branches finally. You can see there's many squirrel nests, but at this point you can see that the cricket prince is ahead of you, and he basically springs to the very top of the tree at this point and looks down at the two of you, and is basically just scrutinizing what positions you are both in. So if you want to try for your last sprint dash effort to see if you can catch up.
Yes, I really want to see what present he will give me if I get to the top. Oh no!
He's just going to give you his name.
Well, he might give me another present.
So at this point, Mydell manages to get himself into the upper branches themselves, which is very flimsy, and they sway wildly in the wind, and it's not very safe. But he's already at the top. But you see that Latrine tries to pull herself up into the branches and just ends up just sliding back down the tree a bit more again, and she is quite obviously last place. The cricket, basically that you'll slowly descend the tree again safely afterwards, and as Latrine manages to get to the bottom of the tree itself, her body begins to sprout bright red feathers all over, including your hands.
No, I'm a fairy!
She's a fairy.
You're not a fiery, you just have feathers. You're a feathered goblin. And you cannot fly, you just have a bunch of bright red feathers.
I'm so ugly.
The real question is, does she chilly down?
No, I'm not chill at all.
He says, well, that was a good spot of competition. He says, thank you very much for the race, sir. You can continue now. Goodbye. And then he springs off. Feathery goblin.
Well, at least, there's some of the people at the party, they wear feathers. I guess I'm quite fashionable now, maybe.
Sure, let's go with that.
Right, so...
Are those snakes?
So as you begin to venture through the land of Yore, you see there's many other trees around as you it's more of like an open sort of area, and you notice you're traveling, you suddenly find you're losing your footing, and you find yourselves tumbling head over heels into a hidden hollow between two hills, Climbing to your feet, you discover that some party members have fallen into the coils of several enormous sleeping pythons.
Jim, you know Python. Sort it out.
Okay, I need to actually get your token. Arrange you in order of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll sort out the rest if I roll it for something else. So it's no one, 4. So Chantel is going to be in the snake pit. And now I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Mydle is in the snake pit. Boop.
Yeah.
Yay, I'm not in the snake pit.
The rest of the party members have landed nearby. Right, so... Oh, actually I need to roll for which place you land into. Right. Mydle has landed into a giant pile of rocks. You're a bit bruised and battered, but otherwise you're fine. And Chantel fell through a bunch of overhead vines. Some of them dangle straight down above this area, and they just sort of like just dangle in where you are. So yes, you are surrounded by pythons. They're all asleep at the moment. What would you like to do?
Who's going first?
Well, there is no going first. It's whoever wants to do whatever.
Well, I think that I could dance my way in between the bits of snake.
I
You're gonna
was
try and-
gonna try snake charming, like da 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 da. That's technical.
Well, they're all asleep at the moment.
Well, I'll try and dance my way through. So do I roll a dice?
Yep, you can roll 2 because you're a dancey old lady. Do you manage to start dancing? You find your way, like you step here and then you step there, and you're managing to get your way across. There's still quite a few to go, but you manage to get yourself into this area here, which is quite long grass. It comes up to like your mid sort of waist, and you can see your friends on the other side of the snakes.
Cooey.
They're all. Do you want to wake them up? They're still quite asleep.
You know. Don't know if you know this, but snakes are actually deaf.
Are labyrinth snakes deaf?
I don't know. Do they have ears?
Some of them do.
Oh my god.
Some of them have 2 heads. There's all sorts of snakes here. You see that the one comes out of a hole and is infinitely long. Like there's just like you can see like the same snake. It seems to be all over the place because it just seems to come out of a hole and just go on forever. There's one with a couple of heads. Yeah. So what would you like to do?
Can I attempt to jump back to the main party? Jumping is one of my skills.
So you take a couple of steps back and take a running leap to get off over the other side of the snake pit.
5.
It's good enough. You run, land, and jump, and as you hit the ground with a heavy thud, you see some of the snakes beginning to stir, and you begin to think they're probably going to wake up pretty soon. So,
Maybe I should have done that second.
So what would Chantel like to do as she sees the snakes sort of begin to
Chantel, as they're starting to wake, she's just going to try and barge her way through to the others.
You're just going to shove your way through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Right, then.
God.
You are twice because you're good at shoving.
Oh, yes.
Thank God
So
for that.
you push and shove your way to the side, but obviously doing that has very obviously woken up the snakes. And at this point, you're all going to have to run to try and get away. So if you could all roll a check for me. Garbage may roll twice because you're on a mount, and so may mine.
Not for the reroll.
I mean, you're brave, so you're not scared.
Okay.
But that's fine. They haven't actually got you yet. But as you begin to run away, you see they are chasing you, and there is obviously the potential that they might come and find you later. Ooh. You begin to run as far as you can away from these snakes. As you begin to run away, you find that there is a bandit on the path. It is a dishonoured knight of yore without a steed, and as he stands and goes, "Stop there, vagabonds! I will have your..." He sees all the snakes chasing after you, goes, "Oh, cripes!" and begins to run the other way. But as you already had the running on him, you see him just get completely bundled by this pile of pythons as you manage to run away.
Oh, that's
So now you have-
sad. Oh,
Um,
he's dead.
You end up stopping, catching your breath, and you pass by a bush. and you can hear the murmur of conversation as you look at the bush itself. You see that a group of worms have gathered on a large leaf and are engaged in a vigorous debate. A gathering of the 3 most important worms in all of the labyrinth.
Oh.
Dear. So as you come up to this bush, they seem completely oblivious. Stand on a tiny stone. Is it dais or dais? I never know.
Day.
A tiny stone dais in the centre of the bush. The worm who is currently speaking must stand in the middle and adopt a formal tone. There's a little path that goes along. One is standing in the middle at the moment, and she's basically standing there, and
What colour is she?
she is bright cherry pink and has green eyes, but looks very young. And she
Has she got
says,
a hat on?
Sure, if she wants one.
No,
It's a little.
I'm asking you.
It's not Cecil. Her name is Minnie.
Oh,
I love her.
And she's sitting there, and she's going. Well, yes. Well, they ate the giant, and they ate everything else. They're just going around gobbling up everything. I think we should leave delicious pies all around the labyrinth, so just in case they come near here, they'll eat the pies instead. And the other sort of worms just sort of like mutter to each other. She slips away for a moment, and another worm comes up, who has a big bushy grey moustache, and he's sort of brown colours, and he's like, well, no, they're all dangerous criminals. They could have gobbled up all of the people in the labyrinth, everyone they've meted. They just want to do harm. We shouldn't be leaving the pies. We should hunt them down and lock them up. Is there anything you want to do, or do you just want to sit there and listen?
Are you talking about us?
So Rufus will look up and say, "Sorry, madam. This discussion doesn't bruise you. This is a very important discussion that we're having just here." And they sort of ignore you for a moment and sort of go back to discussing. The last worm then steps forward, and this one is sort of a blue and yellow worm who's wearing a big red top hat, and she says, "There's no way that they could have got this deep into the labyrinth. All these stories must be lies. We should just ignore this whole debacle and just pretend that it existed and it'll be fine." And
You guys don't think they're talking about us?
I think they're talking about us.
We haven't eaten anyone. I mean, I wanted to eat a cat, but I promised not to now.
At this point, Minnie, the pink one, looks at her and says, "See, I told you they were gobbling up everything. She just mentioned she's eaten a cat."
I said I wanted to. I didn't actually though, and I won't. I promise.
The big bushy bearded one says, "See, they want to cause all the greatest harm." And then the last worm says, "Did you just hear? She said that all of these stories are lies. This is all just nonsense." And their voices just sort of raise as they sort of begin to have this argument in more earnest. But you have sort of realised that yes, they are talking about you.
So what exactly have you heard about us then?
So they turn to address you. The pink one says, "Well, I have heard that you've been eating every single person that you've encountered. I heard you ate a whole hedge maze all by yourself."
Okay, who told you this?
Rufus says, "Oh, other worms, of course. The Wormfi network,
Wormfi.
or Wofi as we call it." And Rufus says, "Well, I heard that old lady beat the poor Lady DeRoche within an inch of her life."
I do not.
It was more grouchy, but if one of you wants to roll a d6 to try and convince them that you're not there for any harm, you can pick whoever wants to take the lead of you to stand your place in trial.
I would like to suggest something to prove our innocence.
And Rufus is like, "Well, I'm listening."
How about you come with us for the rest of the way?
Well, we don't even know if you're talking the truth yet. I mean, you might try and gobble us up or do us great harm.
You're very small. I don't think I want to eat you. Also, I'm cursed, so I don't care anymore.
Worms are packed full of protein, There's more protein per whatever it is than beef.
Yeah, but you're kind of whingy, and I don't really.
They say, well, you don't have to be here and listen to our conversation. You can just go. You can just leave.
Well, well, how are you gonna make sure I'm not gonna eat anyone then?
Well, I mean, Minnie there wants to just leave pies out for you, but I will try and find a group of strong and hardy adventurers to try and track you down if you really are hurting people.
Well, not hurting people. I mean, we gave some paints to Big Giant because he was lonely. I mean,
I heard you ate that giant. You ate every brick and pebble.
I could have blown him up if I wanted to, but I didn't.
I knew it! She wants to blow them up! They are evil!
I don't think I should talk to them anymore. I think Chantel should probably take over.
And Dorothy's like, I don't know why you're believing all of these lies. I mean, look at them. It's a feathery goblin, an old lady, a woman on a bush, and a big horned minotaur.
Barra, it's Leaf Hedger.
It's a bush, madam. You're sitting on a bush.
His name is Leaf Hedger.
And then they go back to having this argument with themselves again.
I know my mum's laughing.
Mum.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, Chantel just thinks that we should just ignore the worms and walk on by.
You don't want pie, Chantel?
I like pie.
You like pie?
Yeah, I like just about. I eat rubbish. I'm a raccoon.
Well, maybe if I sing to them.
Oh God.
I still think. Would one of you like to come with us? Anyway, to tell the others.
The three of them look up and say, No, we need to finish this discussion.
Okay.
What about all of you?
So we're having a discussion here, madam.
You can have the discussion on the way.
Yes, but it's comfortable here and it's close to our houses.
You can sit on Leaf Hedger with me.
Well, you could sit in Leaf Hedger.
Again, this is close to our houses, and you might also try and eat and/or hurt us. And then Dorothy pipes up and says, "It's all just lies. We should just ignore them and just go about our days as normal."
Okay, I say we ignore them now.
Yeah,
and
okay.
them.
I did kind of want you to come with us, but if you don't want to,
Bored of them now.
Okay, bye. I'm sorry you think we're evil or whatever.
So you decide to try to push on and ignore them.
Yes.